Theresa May opens her exploration by posing a poignant question: why do public institutions so often betray the very people they are meant to serve? As a former prime minister and longtime public servant, she approaches this question not as a detached historian, but as someone who has witnessed the corrosion of integrity from the inside. This personal vantage gives her analysis its gravitas and urgency. In the early chapters, she confronts the uncomfortable overlaps between politics and power. Exploring events like Hillsborough, Grenfell, and the Rotherham scandal, she documents how those entrusted with authority, police chiefs, local councils, even the Home Office, repeatedly chose reputational self-protection over accountability. The tragedy of Grenfell, in particular, stands in her mind as emblematic of systemic failure: cladding regulations ignored, safety engineers sidelined, and desperate residents left unheard. She recounts Hillsborough with deliberate clarity, challenging the official narrative that blamed fans for their own deaths. In her telling, the police and press wove a web of obfuscation and lies, effectively weaponizing public trust to conceal their negligence. It's a powerful example of how abuse of power can distort truth and justice. Moving on, she addresses the Windrush generation scandal and the post office crisis, where individuals were wrongly prosecuted, not out of malice, but from institutional inertia and a refusal to question flawed systems. Here she paints a chilling portrait of how decisions made by remote bureaucrats can devastate lives. Raw analysis follows her careful argument: the recurring pattern is not malevolent hearts, but choices driven by self-preservation. She convincingly argues that when public institutions prioritize their own image over their mandate, trust fractures, and injustice is amplified. This becomes a central thesis of the book. Theresa May's prose remains straightforward. She writes with the seriousness of someone trained in candor, never seeking glitter or pen-sharp prose, yet delivering insights with steady punch. This no-frills tone reflects her conviction that truth need not be embellished to matter. Interwoven are reflections on her own time in office, where she ironically saw both the misuse of power and her own limitations. Though she stops short of full self-criticism, she acknowledges missteps, such as her hostile environment, immigration policies. These moments show that she is aware of how complex the balance between authority and service can be. Internationally, she broadens her gaze to the abuse of power beyond the UK, from Russia's aggression to decisions about Afghanistan and the treatment of migrants. She argues that power must be matched with moral clarity, else, it becomes a tool for short-term interests or geopolitical gain at the cost of principle. In the heart of the book lies a conviction: what is needed above all is a return to service. She exhorts public figures, from civil servants to politicians, to accept responsibility, place public good above personal ambition, and internalize virtues like honesty, integrity, and accountability. She is realistic about the challenges ahead. Merely hoping for better people isn't enough. Instead, she recommends structural changes: diversity of recruitment, transparent decision-making, independent oversight, to ensure that institutions reflect the populations they serve. This emphasis on structure underscores her difference from a typical memoir. Rather than self-justification, she offers an extended civic appeal. It is both a confession and a blueprint for transformation. Some critics note her blind spots. She is criticized for underplaying her own responsibility in cases like Windrush, and for treating Brexit as an example of power being abused by opponents. In doing so, she appears to soften her much-needed introspection. Yet these critiques serve to highlight an important tension in the book: the uneasy dual role of May as both critic and former actor within the system. Her narrative is occasionally defensive, but ultimately rooted in a genuine call for reform. The final chapters move beyond analysis. She offers concrete proposals: root out bullying in Parliament, regulate social media, protect whistleblowers, and enforce independent investigation of public bodies. These pages pulse with a belief that change, however incremental, is possible. By closing, she holds up a mirror to her own political community. Not as an act of blame, but as an expression of hope, that public life can still attract those willing to serve rather than survive. It is an appeal to conscience and duty, cloaked in the language of conviction. May's final reflection returns to the initial question: reclaiming trust in institutions is not about uprooting power entirely, it is about reorienting it. To power, she argues, we must add humility, to authority, empathy, and to leadership, a sense of service. Only then can justice thrive in public life.